Hey guys, Sean Klinger with Vital MX. Today we're looking at 3 different models of Garnet boots. If you haven't seen it, we did this with ALPINESTARS Tech 10 versus Tech 7 versus Tech 5. We wanted to do the same thing with Garnet. Garnet makes quite a few different boots. They're a little bit more known just for their top-end boot, the SG12, but they also make 2 other boots that are in a comparable price range. That is the SG10 and then the Fastback, which is here. What we're looking at price-wise is the SG12 MSRP is $579.99. $580 for the SG12, top of the line boot from them. Then it goes down to $479.99, so $480 for the SG10, and then it goes down to $390 for the Fastback. So there's only $100 difference between these boots. Overall, looking at these boots, these are all made in Italy. Some of the other boot manufacturers, you know, the headquarters are Italy, the company is from Italy, but the boot isn't actually made there. That's kind of one of the main points that Garnet likes to point out, is that they spend a lot of time on quality. The boots, according to them, this is their kind of marketing speak, is that they're built to last. They're supposed to be boots that are very high wearing, very durable. They'll be kind of the first to admit that some of the things that they sacrifice for higher durability is weight and is maybe some mobility. We're going to get into sizing. First, I'm going to talk about my foot. So I trace this. Oh, there we go. I trace this, and this is my foot, and I measured it. So basically, in normal shoes, I wear a 10 or a 10.5, depending on the brand. From the very edge of my toes to the back of my heel, I measured 10 inches, 11/16. So that is the length of my foot, and then the width at the widest point is 4 1/8 inches. So if you do this and measure your foot, you can kind of compare what I'm talking about as far as sizing goes and fit goes. So that I knew right off the bat that I'd probably size down. In Tech 10s, I'm a size 10. In Fox Instinct boots, I'm a size 10. In the CD Atojos, I actually went down to a size 9 because those are roomier than the Crossfires. So I really wanted to see where my 10 fits in with the Garnet lineup. Something that a lot of people don't know. The SG12 is offered in 2 half sizes that they make. They make a 9.5 and a 10.5. This, the SG12, is a 9.5. And this fits me perfectly. Overall, Garnet sizing is generous. They're not a narrow boot. They're a bit of a wider boot. And then even lengthwise, they are generous in their sizing. So I went to a 9.5 in the SG12, and that fits almost perfectly. I can still run kind of either skinny moto socks or kind of the old school thicker moto socks. This still has a little bit more room than, say, a Tech 10, because of the booty really soaks up a lot of that extra room. Then moving on to the SG10, so they do make half sizes of this guy, also 9.5 and 10.5. This, at the time that we got these boots, Garnet didn't have any of the half sizes on hand, so this is a size 10. Then also the Fastback is a size 10. Both of these are pretty big. As you go down the line, they get a little bit more roomy each step you go. The SG10, I can still get away with the size 10. I wear a thicker moto sock, and that soaks up some of that extra space. The Fastback, it was even more roomy, to the point where I put insoles in. So I took out the insoles that I use in my sneakers, and I put them in this boot to soak up some of that extra room. That was a way to make this work and feel a little bit better, as far as my foot not having extra slop and moving around in the boot. But if I were to go to the store and buy these, I would definitely try on size 9 for both of these. I'm very happy with 9.5 for this. I did try a size 9 in the SG12, and that was too small. So something that is unique to these boots is obviously they have this stitched sole. It's kind of an old school look. It's an old school way of putting a boot together. Their claim, again, is it's the most durable, it's the longest lasting, it's what Garnet trusts. The unfortunate byproduct of having a stitch sole is that you have that extra lip on the end. On all of these boots, that little extra space does change the length of the boot. So I used a measuring tape, and I measured kind of the overall length of the sole and compared it to ALPINESTARS Tech 10, because that's kind of a standard boot that most people know about. So I measured the size 10 Tech 10, and it is 12.5 inches, roughly. Then looking at the Garnet SG12s in the 9.5, it is 12.75 inches, so a little bit longer there. And then both the SG10 and the Fastback are 12 7/8 inches. So overall, the length of the sole, and when you're on the riding the bike, they are longer. What that means is once you get used to it, it's actually not that big a deal. But if you're coming from a boot that does not have stitch sole, you will notice that you have to move your foot back maybe a couple millimeters on the peg, so that you don't accidentally grab the brake pedal or the shift lever. This might be a deal breaker for some people. It is not a deal breaker for me. I was able to adjust slightly, just kind of move my foot a little bit farther back than where I would otherwise have it, but where you put your foot isn't static. You're always moving your foot around. It's just something that when I switched to these from ALPINESTARS, I noticed that sometimes, I did hang up. I did accidentally grab the brake. Sometimes I would accidentally make a shift. But now that I've been wearing these for a long time, I've kind of adjusted to that, and they feel very natural now to me. It is kind of a interesting thing. The more expensive boots are obviously, they're the most protective, the most substantial. So these boots are the heaviest. So we're looking at 9 pounds and 5 ounces for the pair of the Garnet SG12s. We're looking at 9 pounds and 1 ounce for the SG10s, and we're looking at 8 pounds 2 ounces for the Fastback. So the Fastback is considerably lighter than the other two. And that's kind of a benefit. And then you see that similarly when you're looking at ALPINESTARS boots. The cheaper the boot, it's actually the lighter they are, which is a benefit, but it also takes away protection. Across the board, all three of these have very similar soles. They are very grippy. I didn't have any problems with sole grip on the peg. And then as far as sole feel goes, I would say actually these two, the SG10 and the Fastback, have a little bit more sole feel. I can feel the brake pedal and the shifter a little bit better than SG12, but this still has pretty good control feel, and I would say it's more than maybe the CDs, and probably on par with the ALPINESTAR Tech 10s. So toe box, kind of the width of the toe box and the shape of it, and they are very roomy. If you have wider feet, or if you're the end of your feet, like you really don't want your toes to feel squished, all three of these have a lot of room in the toe box. They're very comfortable. They do not squish your feet. They do not squish your toes. With shifting though, the toe box feels a little bit taller than say a Tech 10 or even a Tech 7. Those have a slimmer feel. Bike grip. One of the major differences in all three of these boots is the inside of the bike grip. So the SG12 has a big rubber pad on the inside. The SG10 also has a rubber pad, but the Fastback just kind of has a leather suede pad. So the bike grip on the SG12 and the SG10 is exceedingly high. It is a great seamless feeling, especially in the SG12. This guy, because of the way that the hinge works and how smooth the inside of the boot is, nothing hangs up. You can squeeze the bike with your ankle, you can squeeze the bike with your legs, with your knees, and you have a very flush, grippy, you match up with the bike really well. The SG10 has a similar feel. It's a little bit different, but overall has a really good bike grip feel. The fastback, you feel like the ankle is a little bit wider than the rest of the boot. So squeezing with your ankle, you have this rubber pad and it's grippy, but then kind of like calf section of the boot is less grippy. It's a slipperier material, and it also is a thinner area of the boot, so you don't get as much positive grip on the bike. So that's something to think about in these three. So ankle support and flex. All three of these are hinged boots. Going from the SG12 to the 10 to the fastback is the ankle structure and support goes down as you go, and that's as to be expected. I mean, the ankle support is the maximum on the SG12. You can move front to back really easily, obviously for braking, obviously for shifting, but there is almost no way of flexing side to side or rolling your ankle in the SG12. I think that's one of the major benefits of this boot, is how much ankle protection you have, how much support you have. Even the back of it has a ton of protection. There's pretty much nowhere that anything could get in from the back where there's soft padding. Moving on to SG10, this guy, so there is a little bit more ankle flex. So moving front to back, very similar feel, but side to side there is less structure. There's a little bit more flexibility. It's a pro if you're maybe an off-road guy that needs a lot of ankle mobility. Just be aware that you're giving up a little bit of that rigid structure going to the SG10. Then moving on to the fastback, the mobility is the highest, but the support and structure and rigidity is the lowest, as you would expect. There's just less plastic, it's thinner, everything on this boot around the ankle is more flexible, but this would be much more comparable to the Tech 7, and if someone wants a lot more mobility, still a moto boot, still you can ride motocross with it, but the protection level starts to go down a little bit, and then also the possibility of rolling your ankle or twisting your ankle, it's just a little bit higher because of the lower rigidity in this boot. Across the board, the buckles are a little bit different, but the action of the buckles is impeccable. I love Garnet buckles. All across the board, all the boots that I've ever worn, CD, Fox, ALPINESTARS, every boot, the Garnet buckles are the best. They're the easiest to use. They're super smooth. They open and close great. Buckle system, fantastic. Love it. Another thing about these boots is adjustability. So when looking at the SG12, it actually has a little bit less adjustability than the other two. The front plate here is adjustable so that you can, if you have a bigger calf, you can adjust that out and therefore have a bigger boot. Other than that, this is kind of how it comes. The other two boots have different positions that you could put the buckles in. So that way you can make it a much bigger opening on top or a smaller opening. Then looking at kind of like the fit and finish, as you go down the line, there's just less high-end materials as you go through. The gaiter on the SG12 is a soft, padded, very stretchy material, grabs the back of your calf. It's great, doesn't let dirt in, very, very comfortable. The SG10 has a gaiter up top, but it is kind of that leathery material, not as nice as this guy. And then going over here, it's in an even smaller gaiter, but it's still there, just kind of not the same amount and the same finish. So overall, I think the takeaway from this boot comparison is that, for one, all of these, the soles have lasted amazing. I've worn the SG12 more than the other two, and the soles on this boot are still in great shape. I've also worn the SG12 on some really gnarly off-road rides where I'm slamming through rocks and scraping and really abusing these boots, and they still look pretty good and in good shape. The next thing I want to do with these three is actually remove, if you look at the pros, you look at Malcolm Stewart's boots, the toe cap, that metal piece on the end, is actually removed, and that makes them a little bit shorter. So I want to see, if I take those toe caps off, if the front of the boot starts to separate or anything negative happens. Also, if you are very familiar with ALPINESTARS lineup, I would say the comparable boot, obviously, the SG12 is very much like the Tech 10. The Fastback is very much like the Tech 7. And the SG10 is actually very comparable to the older Tech 8. That is a booty boot. These don't have booties in any of these. But that kind of a little bit more mobility, the stitched sole, the kind of overall rigid feel of the boot, and looks-wise, SG10 is quite similar to the SG12. Comes in a lot of different colors. Yeah, that's all I got on the Garnet three-way boot comparison. If there is other boots that you want me to test, if there are other products that you want me to compare, please put that in the comments below. If you're on YouTube, click like and subscribe. If you're on vitalmx.com, we have a YouTube channel with plenty of videos to check out. That's all I got. Thanks for watching.